In this section, we work on the health bar for enemies and bullet shooting for the player, and we run the game in multiplayer mode. We go to resources and open player blue. Exit 2D mode and we open the player controller script in Visual Studio. We go to the enemy unit turret script and copy the fire method and paste it in this section. And in the same way, we do the same for all these fields. For the fire rate field in the player, we set the value to 1. In this section, the fire method is called as long as the left mouse button is held. This happens while there is a mobile box in the input controller shouldn't be checked. Next, for the fire mobile method, we copy this line of code and paste it here. So this method can also be called when the fire button is pressed. Now we go to the prefab editor and assign these two fields. For the bullet prefab, we go to resources and select the subject, player missile blue. And for the fire point, we add the subject similar to enemy tank and we place it at this point. Let's add the same object for player green and player red as well. Now we select the player missile green object for this field and assign it. And we also assign the fire point to this field. For fire rate, we set the value to 0.2. We open player blue again and set fire rate for this object to 0.2. And we also assign the fire point. We repeat the same steps for player red. Go back to sample scene and run the game. As you can see, the bullets are being fired correctly and there are no issues. Next, we want to work on the take damage method in enemy turrets. Here we do the same as the player and use the same code. So we go to player controller and copy the code we need. And we paste it here. We also define the variables used in this method. In enemy turret, we don't need the RB field, so we delete it. And we do the same for these two lines. We also create an else block for the if and place the following 3 lines of code inside this block. Considering that the enemy code is executed by the master player, we need to add another part to the if statement like this to prevent any issues. We go back to player controller and copy this field. And we paste it here. We don't need this line here either, and we replace the player with enemy, and we also define this field at the top. Save the script and go back to Unity. In here, we also create the EnemyUIManager class. So we go to scene 1 and select enemy turret. In Word Canvas, we create and add a new script called EnemyUIManager. Then we open it in Visual Studio. For this script, we also use Player World UI Manager, so we go to that script, copy its code, and paste it into Enemy World UI Manager. Here we don't need this line and the methods related to it, so we delete them from this script. For these items, press Alt and enter the necessary namespaces. For this field, select an appropriate name by pressing Ctrl R and replace it. We save the script and go back to Unity and then assign the fields. Before assigning these two fields, we add the Photon view component to this object. Then we assign this component to the field. And for this one, we select the health bar amount object. We repeat the same steps for enemy tank as well. We save scene 1 and open the EnemyUITank script for enemy tank. For this script, we also use the code that exists in EnemyUITurret. So we copy these two lines and we paste them here. For this method, we go to EnemyUITurret, copy these lines, and paste them here. To destroy the subject, we also use coroutine and RPC calls like with the bullet. we call and define the destroy net object coroutine method. So by calling this coroutine and executing this method, we can destroy the enemy tank object at a specified time. We need to do the same for enemy turret, so we add those same lines of code here as well. Go to EnemyUnit tank and copy this line as well, and we paste it here. Save the scripts and go back to Unity. We select the enemy tank object and assign the enemy world UI manager field. Repeat the same steps for enemy turret as well. We go to sample scene and run the game. The game is currently working correctly and there are no issues. If you noticed, after enemy tank is destroyed, the tank passes through the ground. This happens because in this case the kinematic property should be true to prevent this issue. So we stop the game and open the EnemyUnit tank script. Here we define the RB variable as a rigid body and set its reference in start. In this method, we set the kinematic property to true here. We save the script and go back to Unity. In the resources folder, for the bullets, we change the mass and the speed values in the rigid body slightly. We do the same for this one as well. Run the game one more time. Here, we no longer have the previous issue related to the rigid body, but we still need to work more on the mass in the rigid body components. So we stop the game and go back to the scene. Select all the bullets again, and this time we set the mass to 0.05. Replace the speed with 10, and then we run the game again. Stop the game and go back to the scene. Select the build profiles from File and click. We run 2 instances of this file and we test the game in multiplayer mode as well. As you can see, the game is running correctly in multiplayer mode as well, and there are no issues at